It's been a tough few days if you've been a drummer. Just recently you had the Foo Fighters drummer Josh Freese, who is one of the best drummers out there these days, getting let go from the Foo Fighters and given no reason, right? And now you had the in and out and in and out and in and out of Zak Starkey in the Who, right? And these guys are some of the top sidemen in the world, right? And if you don't know what a sideman is, it's a term used for a musician that is a hired gun. And there's been a movie, you might want to check it out if you're interested in this topic, called Hired Gun. And look, being a hired gun is, it can be very cool, and it can be a great jolt to your career as a musician, right? And some people spend their entire careers as hired guns, as sidemen, right? And what you're seeing with Josh Freese, right, and the veil coming down, and him, saying they didn't give me a reason. And look, what was the thing they said? They said, we're going in a different direction, right? And I can speak on this topic because I have been a sideman. I have toured, and I know what it's like. And I got the same phone call. We're going in a different direction. They don't tell you anything, right? They basically, say, hey, we're going in a different direction, and that's it. And that's the reality of being a sideman, right? There is no guarantees. And that's what can make it very tough, right? And here's the deal, man. Depending on how long you've been on a gig, and Zak Starkey has been on the gig, what did it say, in 27 years or almost 30 years or something crazy like that. Let me know if you know the exact number in the comments. This is just my commentary on this stuff, and and giving you my inside perspective. But here's the deal, man. Fans can end up really liking these sidemen. If I, hear that a certain player that I really like is gotten a gig, with some artist that I might not even be a fan of, I might go out and buy tickets because I'm like, oh, I really want to see this certain sideman. And maybe, it's not a mass thing. Maybe that's not a huge driver of ticket sales. But I can say that, when I saw Steely Dan with Drew Zing, he blew me away with his guitar, playing. And the next year, or, the next tour cycle, when Steely Dan went back out, I bought tickets. This is before the internet really blew up, and I was unaware that I went back to see the band, and Drew Zing was no longer the guitar player, and I was disappointed when I went to the concert, right? If I had known that Drew Zing was not in the band, I probably would have skipped and saved that money rather than going to that concert. That is the reality of it. And here's the deal, man. Zak Starkey has been with the Who for so long that no doubt there are thousands and thousands of people that have enjoyed his playing when they have gone to see the Who over the years. And he's become a loved sideman. He's become a beloved hired gun, right? And here's the deal. It's look, like I said, man, you're a sideman, you're a hired gun, you're not the artist, right? And look, there's a big difference in what the artist gets paid and what the sideman gets paid. Now look, Zak might be a very well-paid sideman or hired gun. Josh Freese, I'm sure, was a well-paid hired gun / sideman. but they don't have the power of, say, a voting member if you're not a member of the band. And look, sometimes you hear stories like guys like Ron Wood, with the Rolling Stones, and how when he first started with the Rolling Stones, he was a hired gun. And I've heard the story told that Bill Wyman made sure before he exited the band that they went ahead and made Ron Wood a full member, right? If that's the case, then, here's the deal. We don't always know the inside baseball. The higher you get up in the touring world food chain, the less likely you're going to know what these people were getting paid. I can tell you what the average Nashville, hired gun gets paid because, that's a pretty common knowledge thing. And I have experience in that. But here's the deal. As you get higher up the food chain, as you get higher up in the world of touring, it starts to become how bad do they want you? And, what do they think they can pay you? And they have to look at their budgets, and they have to look at how many dates they have and how ticket sales are going and all of those things, and factor in, hey, here's what we're going to pay you, right? And maybe the sideman goes, hey, well, we're close. I would really like to get this, and maybe, name a couple perks, or I'd like to have my own roadie out with me or whatever. And if you're higher up in the touring world, sometimes you get your demands met. But when you're just a regular old sideman playing with, David Lee Bubba, on some country tour, man, you don't really have any say. You can either take the gig, take what they're offering you, or stay doing whatever you're doing at that moment in time. And that's the reality. But man, fans get involved in this. I covered the story of Keith Urban firing a couple of his band members. One was a guy I played with in the past named Jerry Flowers. And I was surprised to see, one, how much response I got from that video. But fans had fallen in love with Jerry Flowers as a longtime touring member of the band. And imagine going all those years, tour after tour, buying tickets and going to see, oh, there's Jerry and Keith, and they see you up there. And it becomes part of their experience, right? And it can become sort of a PR nightmare. And I think that situation, people were upset, but I don't think it was a PR nightmare. I think Keith Urban will have no problem selling tickets. But this Zak Starkey thing, it is a PR nightmare. And as you can see with Pete Townshend's statement, I'm going to read it here. It says, after many years of great work on drums from Zak, the time has come for a change. A poignant time. Zak has lots of new projects in hand, and I wish him the best. Scott DeVowers, who has worked with Roger's solo band, will join The Who for our final shows. Please welcome him. Okay, that would be all fine and dandy. But then it basically came out that Zak Starkey said, they asked me to quit, and I didn't put out a statement saying I quit. That would be letting the fans down. Zak knows that he has a lot of fans, right? And not showing up for a tour to just all of a sudden pull up tent and go, here's the deal. You're looking at 9, 10, 11, 12 dates. You're not looking at, touring for an entire year and being away from your family and all your other projects. You're looking at 12 or 13 or 14 dates, right? And so here's the deal, man. If you look at the Who's official Instagram page and you see the comments, and I'd already covered the story of Zak getting fired, but then there's something else here, right? This is a PR nightmare, right? This is not a good look, right? If you look at the comments, you'll see that people are greatly upset. It's not like just one or two comments here and there. It's a lot of people upset at this. And here, I'm gonna read some comments. Crazy Cosmic Jive says, I guess we got fooled again. The next comment says, Zach, who I don't see has a reason for lying, has said he was asked to say he's quitting. For what reason? So Scott Devours can replace a member of The Who that has been playing for years? So weird, Pete and Roger. And then another comment. Good thing all of this was sorted behind the scenes and smoothly. Yeah. This is about as unsmooth as you can get. And it continues on. J Chow 50 says, so you fired Zach for his own well-being because you are about to retire and he has a long, bright future ahead? Bollocks. Stop lying. Tell the truth. Whatever it may be, if you have any respect for your fans, just tell the effing truth. We can handle it. Otherwise, you risk losing all credibility. And the next comment says, thoroughly unprofessional behavior. Shame on the lot of you. And the next comment says, what you guys did with Zach is disrespectful and embarrassing. As you can see, we've got a PR nightmare, right? And it continues on. Tyler Braun says, you fire Zach again after you told us he was back. So I spent $3 meaning lots of money for tickets to see my favorite drummer, Zach, with my favorite band. Rude, mean, not cool, let me down. And you can see I replied to that comment, man, that is tough. It's really just a complete mess. And again, here's Big Cheese Photography saying, love The Who, but this is probably your most infantile and dumb PR disaster ever. And that's saying something when you're banned from Holiday Inn for life and Australia. Zach deserved better than this nonsense. Who fans deserve one last tour with Zach after 30 years. Sorry, guys, but this is messed up. And the next comment reads, Roger really couldn't deal with Zach for 16 more shows. Zach is the only drummer you've had since Moon that made you guys sound like yourselves. Even Simon Phillips, as incredible as he is, was so out of place in the band. This is a PR nightmare. And look, it continued on into responding to Pete's statement, right? Danny McCormack Bass says, I'm embarrassed for your entire organization, Pete. Skate says, Zach is The Who's drummer. Jeff Gamble says, love you guys, but honestly, I wish I knew that before buying tickets. He's more a part of The Who than Moon at this point. And that is the reality, man. People can really fall in love with the Sidemen, really enjoy their performance, and it can influence ticket sales. Will we see people asking for refunds? I don't know. Can you ask for refunds if a Sideman's not on a gig? I doubt it, right? You could sell your tickets and hopefully get your money back. And maybe people who had not bought tickets yet and were leaning towards, hey, we're gonna think about going to that Who show. And then you see that Zak Starkey's not gonna be there. And you go, I don't think I'm gonna pay for that. I don't think I want to see that. And look, Scott, I'm sure, is a fine drummer. Nothing against him. And look, as they say, the show must go on. Sidemen get canned all the time. You don't have any power as a sideman except, maybe the fans love you enough that maybe they bring you back. And maybe that's why Zak was brought back after initially being let go. But this was handled very poorly. If this was planned and if this was what they were going to do, they should have let him go the first time and let it blow over a little bit, then announce the new drummer and, move on. But this back and forth and in and out, in and out, and in and out, like a bloody squeeze box, as Zak calls it, is just so uncalled for. And I know that the show must go on. But sometimes, man, sometimes it might be time to just call it quits. If you can't do things, and look, man, this is pretty infantile behavior, right? From stately old men out there on the rock trail, right? The reality is, man, sometimes it is time to save your dignity, save your face, right? And look, the best thing that they could have done in all this is finish out the 16 shows with Zak, and then everybody could have gone on and done their own thing. And so, man, I don't know what to say else about this, but this is an extremely bad PR move, and we'll have to wait and see what the fallout from this truly is.